3, 2, 1. From Rapid City, South Dakota, and the Hardrocker Podcast Network, focusing on stories on and off the playing surface. This is the Hardrocker Huddle.
This is Josh van Valkenburg-Gernert. This is episode 40 of the Hardrocker Huddle. Today's guest is Ethan Pitlick, a member of Hardrocker Track and Field. Thanks for joining me today, Ethan. Just kind of getting started. I know you are originally from Gettysburg, is that right?
Yep.
What was life kind of like growing up there? What was your family life like? And what kind of, I guess, initially got you interested in sports?
So it's a very small town. It's between 1,000 to 1,300 people. And I guess I always use sports as a way to get rid of like stress and just all my emotions in a kind of positive way. And I graduated with 15 people, so I could do basically whatever I wanted. So I played I ran cross country and played football in the fall, basketball in the winter when I wasn't hurt, and then the spring I did track, and then I also did golf my senior year.
Sure. So when you were younger, what kind of initially got you into sports? Was it just because, it's kind of a small town, so you didn't have much else to do?
I didn't move to Gettysburg till 7th grade,
Okay.
And I lived in Aberdeen before that. And I just enjoyed being outside and liked being out of the house. And I always liked running around. So I was consistently playing football, soccer, and basketball in the different seasons. And it was a way for me to make new friends and just connect to people in a non-talkative way.
Sure. So did you have any siblings or anything growing up that kind of you looked at and looked up to, sort of, or was that?
I have an older brother who always played football and ran track, so that's kind of where the football stemmed from, and then track, he's just always so passionate about both of them. Then my older sister played soccer as well, and then she started running track her 6th or 7th grade year. So it was a way for me to connect with both of them outside the house and have commonalities.
Sure. So you kind of mentioned you were interested, or you played football, baseball, basketball. What was it about track that kind of made that your, I guess, number one sport, so to speak?
I guess track was the one sport I played that I couldn't really blame anybody else for bad things. Unless it's like a relay and someone drops the baton in a handoff, it's all you. So it's you go out there and either you have a bad day or you have a good day. You can't blame anyone else. It's always your fault.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. I know. Obviously basketball, football, all those sports, you're super reliant on other people. And track's really, it's still a team sport, but it is really more individual, kind of similar to like golf too in that way. So kind of growing up and getting into high school, you mentioned you went to a pretty small high school, only 15 was your graduating class. Yeah, that's pretty tiny, especially growing up in Aberdeen. What was kind of the adjustment going from Aberdeen to Gettysburg?
Living in Aberdeen, it was, I kind of just float through the motions. I just walked through the crowd of people, didn't really talk to anybody. I had my group of like 2 or 3 friends, and that was it. And they were also more, they progressed you through school more. So like 6th grade, you moved into like a high school scenario where you had lockers, you went to like set classes. Then moving to Gettysburg with a small class, I actually had to know everybody because I had the same people in every class. And they had like their elementary all the way up until 6th. So while I was already used to it, they were starting their high school like routines in 7th grade. So I was required to actually talk to everybody.
Sure. Yeah, I know in small schools like that too, that can be kind of a good or a bad thing.
Yeah.
Being with that, you can wind up being really tight with people, or there can be people you really don't like, and if there's drama, everybody knows, the whole school knows, so that part of it's kind of a little different.
Yeah, it is.
And kind of getting into, I guess, when did you start to realize that college sports were going to be an option for you?
I guess junior year I started getting like a lot of lower D3 schools and NAIA schools like reaching out and emailing me. It was primarily for football, then some track. But I knew I didn't really care about the athletics, and I had wanted to be an engineer since freshman, sophomore year of high school. So I was pretty set on the different colleges I was looking at, including obviously Mines, then like Caltech and MIT I was interested in. And then I actually kind of waved athletics aside for school, and I was just focusing on my academic side. And then after I committed to Mines, it was probably like a week before my high school graduation. Coach Johnson emailed me. He's like, "Hey, you ran track in high school. Do you want to run for us?" And I was like, "Sure, I'm down."
That easy, huh?
Yeah.
So what was it about South Dakota Mines that drew you over? You mentioned Caltech and MIT.
It was definitely the most affordable option, but it was also, it's only 3 hours away from home, and I'm a big family guy, so it allows me to still go see my family in the off season. And it's also just a really good school. They actually care about how you do in classes, getting you career outside of it. So it's just it pleased me to be in the area.
Sure. You mentioned going back to your like freshman sophomore year. You kind of knew you wanted to be an engineer. What was it about engineering that drew you, and like, I guess how did you get that exposure to engineering so early?
I guess I always was really good at the STEM classes. I was terrible at English and reading. And my stepdad was a diesel mechanic, so I always got to sit there and work on different vehicles with him. So I figured I wanted a way that I could combine both of them. So then I was like, okay, mechanical engineering, if I do the right path in school, I could end up working on vehicles as well.
Sure. So is that kind of your ultimate goal? You think you want to work on vehicles, sort of?
Yeah, ultimate goal is either work on the automobile industry or like heavy equipment, aircraft type things.
Sure. So what kind of experiences have you had so far? Have you done any internships? Have you done any? I know you have a co-op coming up, but so far have you done anything?
Not really. I was really picky on who all I talked to last year at the career fair as a freshman, and that probably didn't help my case any, because I went towards like the big name actual manufacturing companies. But I got an offer from Bobcat in the fall to come for a spring-summer co-op, and I was like, that's when I'm in season. I train all year. I don't want to miss the one time I compete. So then I turned him down. Didn't talk to him in the spring career fair, actually. And then I got a call from one of them in North Dakota, and he was like, "You applied with us last semester and interviewed. Is this something you'd be interested in interviewing for again?" And I was like, as long as it's for the fall, yes. So then we had a very relaxed interview and just kind of socially talked, and then I got an offer.
Sure. So what kind of stuff are you going to be doing for them?
I'm working with their internal hydraulics group, so I think it's just like all the hydraulic repairs on older models and like making new parts and just trying to make improvements.
Sure. And you mentioned that'll be in North Dakota?
Yep, Bismarck.
Okay. Recently, I know you're kind of involved in some other campus stuff too. I know you're in SAC. You're a part of TOSPA. What I guess for people who don't know, first, what are those groups, and what's the purpose of those two groups?
So I'm part of both the TOSPA Scholar Group and ACES, which are mutually connected. Those are basically trying to get more Native Americans in the STEM field, and then the TOSPA especially is like our on-campus it's a bunch of study rooms, and it's a way to connect with other people and offer like mentors and tutors to help guide you through college. Then SAC is an interesting one. Like March last year, Adam Namus, one of our seniors, he walked up to me. He's like, "You know what SAC is?" I was like, "No." He's like, "Okay, you're taking my spot." And I was like, okay. So then I went to that first meeting. Then I was part of the Grubbies, and I was like, okay, I can do this. And then so far this year, I've went to Pueblo for the actual RMAC conference SAC meeting, which was interesting to sit through just to see how all the Colorado schools kind of levied the opinions. And then obviously just recently went to the NCAA Leadership Forum.
Sure. So what kind of stuff did you talk about at the NCAA Leadership Forum?
It was big on like knowing yourself, like knowing what your values are, what your habits are, what your different strengths are, which was really surprising because I thought I was going to focus on more of a like group effort type thing. So it's basically like, why do you do what you do every day, and then like how you started it, and it's basically putting all of your self motivations and self goals and kind of combining it to best help the team. And then there was also being more vulnerable to your team. It's like football especially is a sport where you try to look tough, so everyone kind of shelters off emotions. So it's kind of opening up to your team to build better bonds so you can help everyone individually better.
Sure. Jumping back a little bit, do you have Native American roots?
Yeah, my mom's side of my family is part of the Lower Brule tribe in South Dakota.
Okay. So how important is that to you in, your, I guess, in just how you view yourself?
I guess from where I'm from, I'm in kind of a bad area. So my little hometown don't really have the best outlook on the reservations. So I always tried to avoid it for the longest time, just because they never really seemed like the type of people I want to be around and influence me. But like since coming to college, there have been so many different Native Americans that I've met that their goals and their aspirations to change how people view Native Americans, it's kind of pushed me to do the same thing.
Yeah, so what has that process been like, just, kind of learning more since you got to college?
It's mainly been applying myself a lot harder, because my hometown, they think of Native Americans like they're lazy and they just want to walk through the easy way. So I've been trying to push myself harder, try harder in sports, just school in general, just to try and be one of the top-notch people.
Sure. Yeah, and I know there's a couple, like Ollie Rama, I'm sure, is probably one of the people you're talking about, who he's really motivated to, get a degree from here, bring it back to the reservation and create jobs. Is that something that kind of motivates you or drives you?
It is. I actually kind of look up to Ollie just because of the way he carries himself around and how much passion he shows towards basketball and academics. It's really cool watching someone go out on the court and give it 100% effort every single game.
And jumping into a little bit more of the track stuff, obviously you're still pretty early in your career. You have another 2 years left. What have you kind of done so far that you've been happy with, and what are kind of some of your goals, to finish out the year as an individual?
So I guess I'm not really happy on the individual side. I don't think I've performed my best this year. I'm currently a little under a second slower than I ran last year for my PR, which is really unfortunate. But I feel like as a team we've grown a lot closer, and just our overall mindset has improved a lot since last year, and that's something that I'm happy about.
What are your main events that you compete in?
I run the 400, whether it's open 4x4, and then this year I'm in the 4x1.
Sure, but you're not a cross-country guy,
No.
right? You just do mid-track.
I do not like long distance.
Have you already qualified for the RMAC then, or are you still looking to do that this weekend?
That's my goal for this weekend. The last meet I ran at my time would have put me in the top 24 to qualify, but then there ended up being like 10 more people, I think, that broke 51, so that really dropped me back.
So do you kind of know what time you have to hit? I know it's kind of depends on how things go, but...
When I looked yesterday, it was 50.9, I believe.
Okay, and you're only like 0.1 off that?
I think I'm 0.3 of a second.
Okay, so that's not very much. For people who don't know track, that's like a snap of your fingers, basically.
Yeah, it's just a little bit of an adjustment from strategy.
Sure.
That's it.
Sure. And then you kind of mentioned maybe there being a little bit of a team shift in your 2 years. Just kind of looking at some of the results. You know, it seems like almost every weekend somebody's breaking a new school record. Like,
yeah.
I think this last weekend there were like 30 plus top 5 finishes. So what does that kind of do to motivate you personally and just, you know, be a part of the team?
It's showing me that our team's improving since last year, both physically and mentally. So it's kind of pushing me to be the best version of me I can for my team and work harder, because I know we're striving to eventually win or even place top 3 in the RMAC championships. So like as our team's improving, it makes me it makes me work harder to follow the team.
Sure. And there's been a lot of good performances by people who are not juniors and seniors too. Especially like on the women's side, you have Kat Taverdi, who's been, even during the cross country season, she was performing well.
Yeah.
And Lane Mans and, you know, all these different freshmen and sophomores who are coming in. And I think part of that has really been just some of that improved performances. What does that do for your mentality coming in or going into the next season?
It definitely gives me a little more hope. I know last year when we still had Coach Johnson and all of our past coaches, recruiting seemed like it was really slow. We didn't really get any good incoming recruits that they were looking at that would sign. But I feel like Coach Stevens is doing a phenomenal job with recruiting, especially for the incoming freshmen for next year. So it's definitely a really, really hopeful looking season.
Yeah, and I think I do agree that I think there's been an increased quality of the kids coming in to what some of the like I kind of already mentioned, Kat and Lane and some of the men too. Thomas
is doing phenomenal.
Has been killing it. Looking at, you know, the next couple weeks, I know your season's kind of wrapping up, but what are your goals for the rest of the season?
Personally, I want to try and break 50 for my 400. I've done it once in the 4x4 so far since coming to college, and I feel like if I could do that in an open event, it would be a successful season for me, because that would be a decent-sized PR. And then, honestly, just do good in our relays. We haven't had the best experience so far this year with a few incidents, but if we can do good as a team overall, it would be a really good year.
Sure. What does doing good as a team mean to you?
So indoor conference, we finally beat BH in overall team points. I think we got, it was like 8th or 7th. It's like last year we were pretty consistently finishing either bottom or bottom 2. So I think indoor conference we were 3rd from the bottom, but I'm feeling like at least next year we should be jumping up the numbers pretty quickly.
Sure. And what is obviously you're I guess wrapping up your second year now. What was kind of that transition from, you know, obviously college education and college athletics are kind of especially here, are kind of a step up from what you were probably doing in high school. What was that transition like, and how much better or how much more comfortable are you in year 2 than you were your freshman year?
Year 2, I definitely have a better understanding of what I need to do. Last year, I kind of walked in thinking it would be the same routine as high school. and I got slammed by workouts. We were consistently getting hurt as a team, and I ended up getting knee surgery this summer from some knee pain I had in the winter. But I feel like this year the training's better, so it's really helping. We're not being over-exhausted. So I think coaching's a big part of why it's an easier year.
Yeah, I think just looking around at some of the guys and women who have had success this year that maybe were hurt or had maybe lesser years than like Jade Cass.
Yeah.
You know, he was hurt basically all year last year. Then this year, I don't think he's been hurt really at all, and he's, you know, he obviously won conference championship. Cameron Scully was hurt a lot last year. So I think there's been, you can probably attest to this, but I definitely think there's been a little bit of a shift in just the coaching style.
Yeah.
To maybe get more out of people at meets rather than getting so much during training.
Yeah, during training last year was definitely, I had some meets where like the day or two before, my pre-meet would consist of like long full effort reps, and then this year it's kind of more laid back. We do a lot more like recovery, cross training to help save our legs, and then just not running on treadmills every single day has been really nice.
Yeah.
So it is nice for the new training and coaching, just because obviously Jade was hurt all of last year. Being able to see him go out and compete and be happy with his results this year, it's been really, really nice.
Yeah, so I guess just the last couple questions are, you know, we kind of talked about your goals for the rest of this year. It's a ways out, but, you know, what would you like to see in terms of personal improvement from what you've done this outdoor season to, like, next indoor and outdoor season, I guess? Whether it's times or just whatever you feel like.
One of my goals is definitely to be stronger altogether. I feel like I don't really run like a powerful sprinter right now, and that's definitely affecting my times. So if I could become a lot stronger and be able to like propel myself farther forward, I feel like it would lower my 400 time significantly.
Is that a technique thing, or is that a leg muscle thing? Is that a fast twitch versus?
I think it's a little bit of both. 'Cause I ran cross country my junior and senior year, so even just that one outdoor season of cross country, it affected how I ran.
Sure.
But I'm also a lot stronger upper body in the weight room than I am lower body. I don't know if it's a mental barrier or what, but like my bench PR at Thanksgiving was even with my squat PR, which
really?
should not be happening.
So has that improved at all since that time?
It definitely has. I'm moving a lot more weight, a lot more comfortably.
Sure.
It's still not going very fast, but just the improvements is really nice to see.
Sure. Is Reggie your
We have Carl.
Carl? Okay. How important has Carl been in, or I guess all the strength people have been in, you know, you think the team improvement over the last couple of years?
I feel like they've definitely helped get us more of a balanced strength training. Then they're all, if one of us gets hurt while we're lifting, or like we're struggling through workouts and our hamstrings hurt, they're really flexible with what we can do, and they'll move around like individual athletes' weight training for the day to kind of adjust to that. So it's just a really, really nice shift to help with recovery as well.
Sure. I don't think I have anything else for you, Ethan. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
My name is Josh Van Valkenburg-Gernert. This has been the Hardrocker Huddle, signing off.
Thank you for listening to the Hardrocker Huddle with host Josh Van Valkenburg-Gernert. Follow on Apple and Spotify.